Hi, I'm Gina Wells,
Hi, I'm Kat Toon.
and this is the Success Principles Podcast. Michigan is known as the birthplace of Motown, headquarters to the auto industry, and home of the beautiful Great Lakes. The Success Principles Podcast features professionals and entrepreneurs with ties to this great state who have demonstrated innovation and success both within and outside of our Mittens border. Welcome to Success Principles with Gina and Kat. Today we are pleased to have Shannon Long with us, and she has created a business called Brew Export. In fact, has appeared on TV as well, as she's going to share with us. So happy to have you with us, Shannon. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be talking to both of you guys at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? Some people might notice that Gina and I are actually together in the same place for the first time ever. I'm not broadcasting out of my office at my home. So
Yeah.
It's a big deal.
Getting closer.
Big deal.
Opening up big time.
But it's not about us. It's about you.
Yes. And Shannon, tell us first about your Michigan roots. Where did you grow up, and how did you become the successful entrepreneur you are today?
I love Michigan. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else in the United States. It's the best place ever. So I grew up in Metro Detroit, pretty much lived my whole life, around in this area. And I went to Michigan State. I was born in Michigan as well. Went to Michigan State University and studied international relations and go white. Did I hear go green? Yeah. Studied international relations was one degree, and then marketing was my other degree. And got them done in like 4.5 years. And my final class was my international marketing class. So it was like a combination of both of my degrees. And I was probably like way too excited for this class. And my professor, she was like this young Russian woman. And she's had us do a capstone project, 50 pages, exporting a product to another market. And we didn't have to literally do it, but like all, 50 pages on everything it would take to do that. And people were doing like peanut butter or water bottles with filters in them. And I was like, screw that. I'm going to do beer. So classic college move. I never thought it would have ended up as a business, but I did Founders Beer to Singapore. So we were looking at like all day IPA and some of these, classic beers that everyone loves. And in doing that, I got to know the guys at Founders really well. They're a huge brewery. They have internally an entire international marketing team. But a lot of breweries are a lot smaller than Founders and still have amazing beers, but can't afford to have internally a whole team to manage the international sales plus the domestic sales. So I started my business to essentially handle the international sales for a bunch of different craft breweries, as well as, source some of the best, highest rated beers on the planet for all of my clients overseas, or all my foreign partners.
So did you travel then? I mean, when you were in college, did you get to go over to the...
So I went to Indonesia for a month to teach English when I was in college, which was pretty crazy. It was like the opposite side of the world. I don't think I stopped sweating the whole time I was there. And then, yeah, I traveled like within the United States a good amount. But all my traveling really started, as I was graduating college. I had this business idea, after completing the thesis. And then I think 2 months after I graduated, I did a pitch competition and won $1,000. So I was like, I'm rolling big. This is all happening. It's going down. I gave my parents were like, we just spent how much on your college and you're about to go start a business. No one's even looked at your resume, any of this stuff. It all felt kind of pointless, but I guess it all, led to where I am now. So won a pitch competition, started the business, and then simultaneously also started a TV show. I partnered with a production company, and I was the host, a producer, and then sales for the TV show called Pure Brews America. And it was all about craft beer. So we took you behind the scenes of like 70 different craft breweries, and you can find it on YouTube still. Back in the day, it aired on CBS in the state of Michigan, and we actually won a Michigan Emmy Award for the show, which was pretty cool. I've got it like in my closet somewhere. I need to
Pure Brews America. Pure Brews America.
Yep. Pure Brews.
We'll put that information.
Kind of like Pure Michigan, Pure Brews America.
Okay.
All right. Oh, okay. I see what you did there.
Uh-huh.
So you took your two majors, your love of beer, and you went out into the world and you went to different breweries and said, hey, you need to work with me. You need to give me a job because you created your own job.
Yeah, essentially.
Okay, so you're my hero.
A lot of breweries were just straight up ignoring the international sales. You know, there's so much to deal with, you know, keeping it cold. Craft beer has to be kept cold. It's not pasteurized like Bud Light or Budweiser. You know, the flavor degrades a lot if you don't keep the beer cold. So keeping the beer cold for thousands and thousands of miles, getting paid by a foreign party, the compliance, the labeling of different countries, you know, just customs clearance and things like that was a lot for a lot of craft breweries. And they were just saying no. Like one brewery even had a spam filter with the word export. So if it said export, it went to a spam filter. Like he wasn't even reading them. So those are all the kind of breweries I work with now is giving them that international exposure, you know, dropping their beer in places like London, Barcelona, Berlin, and giving that kind of priceless star quality, and making it as easy as possible on them so they can focus on making really great beer.
Wow.
So walk us through the process a little bit from how you build a relationship with a brewery in the United States to how and where you decide to export it into Europe or across the world.
That's a really good question. And it's not straightforward at all. So one thing I learned in my international marketing class, and this is probably the only thing I remember from college, is and I got high grades too. I feel like the way you study for college is totally different than real life, like retention of information. Anyways, international relations, you can't apply U.S. standards to other countries. Just because it works in the U.S. doesn't mean it's going to work overseas, which seems really obvious, but there's like so many case studies of businesses who've messed that up time and time again. So what works here in the United States doesn't necessarily work overseas. Like they're really focused on untapped scores and variety, and price point is a lot higher. You know, imported beer here in the US is higher, more expensive. Now imagine imported craft beer. So you're hitting like a very, very high price point, and they actually drink their beers as bottles and cans. Like that's how they buy them, single bottles and cans from stores. They don't have like 6-packs and 4-packs for craft beer like we have. So that kind of changes the whole pricing model and things like that. So some of it has to do with price, some of it has to do with beer styles, some of it has to do with Untapped Score, which is an app that's kind of like, I guess, I can't remember what the wine one's called, but like Yelp or something. It basically you rate the different beers. And
Wine Spectator.
Yeah. What was that?
Wasn't it Wine Spectator?
Something like that. They have it similar.
How do we not know this? Gosh.
In beer, it's super important though. Like there's people that are just obsessed with Untapped. So, so that's kind of how we choose. And then sometimes the brewery has, you know, countries they're interested in. I have countries that I think they'll do well in. And then obviously I'm constantly working with, you know, my different foreign partners in, you know, Scotland or Canada, and taking their advice on what they think is going to work and what's not going to work.
That's really great. So how did you build those relationships?
A lot of networking. I feel like these days I love staying. The business is now 5 years old, 6 years old. We're still have a lot of growth to do, but I used to be a lot more social. Like I feel like, especially when I was doing the TV show, you know, I went to my first craft brewers conference when I was 22, and I was actually licensed to buy alcohol in bulk quantities at 22, which is pretty crazy because, you know, 21 is the age to drink.
Not have survived that. Okay.
Yeah. So a lot of, you know, conferences and I guess it's a pretty male dominated industry. So I stick out like a sore thumb a lot of the time. And I'm kind of a talker. So just talking with people. And I always found out like one of my biggest advice actually, when I do a lot of presentations they have me into schools and stuff, which is weird, like colleges and stuff. But I always tell them, like use your network. So
Shannon, you were networking in college and this is how it all got started.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if you ask someone, hey, can I take you out for a beer or two? buy their beers, and after the first beer, they'll answer a lot of questions and
Agreed.
share a lot of knowledge with you. I mean, if people are excited to help excited people, so if you're like passionate about your business, other people like feed off of that too. And I was definitely still am passionate about my business and what I do, and I bought a lot of beers for people and asked a lot of questions.
I bet.
That's a success principle right there.
Yeah, buy beers.
I don't even know if I want to tell this because I feel like it's so,
Tell it then.
Is thank you notes. So like, even if someone just had a beer with me and spent like an hour and just answered some of my annoying questions, I would send them like a handwritten thank you note, and like people always remembered it. And
Great.
it's a little trick that like people don't do these days, but it has a lot of value, I think.
It certainly does. I mean, those principles that we're looking for, to share with other people, because it's the little things that matter. It's getting to know one another and really, hearing about what it is you're looking for. And if they can help, that's the whole networking meaning of everything. So that's great. So now that you've built all of this, tell me a little bit about, you spent 4 years at Michigan State, right? Got the degree. What was the degree in, by the way?
International relations and then marketing.
Oh, so you did exactly what you were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Your parents were just nervous you were going to start your own business, eh?
Yeah, my dad was all about it. He definitely has more of the entrepreneurial spirit. But my mom was like very timid at first. She was concerned, understandably.
I'm sure.
But, I mean, they both gave me. I had like no money when I graduated college. So I lived with my mom, and I think I needed at least $3,000, I think, to open a business bank account.
Wow.
And they lent me $1,000 each, I think, to put into the account so I could like open a business account, which I've since paid back to them. But
Sure.
You probably didn't come out of college knowing how to start your own business. So what were some of the things that you learned? Some of those really important early lessons.
Definitely. The best way to learn is doing. People can like tell you a million times how it's going to go, and you have to do it yourself. I was lucky in school. I had built a pretty nice resume by the time I got to college. I was the president of the marketing association at Michigan State, and then I was vice president of the entrepreneurship association. So both of those,
impressive. Very impressive.
Some cool experiences. And my last semester is when I got super involved in the Michigan State's, like the Hatch and the Hatching and their whole like Spartan Innovations and, entrepreneurial program. That's growing like crazy. It's totally different than when I was there.
What's Hatch? Does that stand for something?
I don't think so. The Hatch is just like a space.
Like a incubator? It's kind of like an incubator. Okay.
Like, a lot of
ideas and okay.
Exactly. It's really fun. It's super cool. So I started to get involved in that. And then it was a lot of just like make it up as you go along. It's just a lot of problem solving. And, when you run your own business, you have to be like IT, finance, accounting, marketing, communications, everything. And I guess I'm okay at a lot of things, maybe. So I just made it up as I went along, and I just asked a lot of questions in that network. When I didn't know something, I reached out to a bunch of different people, heard their responses, and then made my decision after that, how I was going to handle X situation. But it definitely wasn't easy. Like, I remember my very first shipment of beer that I ever sent out. Now we regularly do, I'm sure you see those huge shipping containers driving down the road or, on boats and things. So we fill those with beer, and ours are refrigerated, 20 pallet spaces. And I was filling my first one of those. And I remember being like so scared. I mean, the beer was so much money. I was writing like the biggest check of my life. And I brought my printer with me in my car and like was ready to print any documents that I didn't know that I needed, which I totally did. I printed off one to give to another document to give to the trucker. And I remember little things like the pallets, when you stack beer, there's like an inch overhang because cases don't always fit right on it. Well, those inches add up when you have 20 pallets. So the doors barely closed. And lesson number one was making sure that the pallets are stacked so there's as little overhang as possible. And you know what I mean? So things like that you just learn. And I would only have known that, by doing it and experiencing it.
So you didn't have anyone helping you. You did this all. You just like researched it. This is what I do. This is my next step. Here I go. And
So I still own 100% of the company. We're actually in the process of hiring right now. So anyone who's interested in, logistics, operations, freight forwarding, or if you like beer, that's an added bonus. Not necessary though. And then, so I in the process of hiring, but I had, when I was in college also, I worked for the Michigan Department of Agriculture's international marketing program. And that's pretty much helping Michigan agriculture companies export their products. So similar to what I do, except, the models are different, but it's a government organization that encourages our products to go all around the world. And then I also worked for C.H. Robinson, which is one of the largest third-party logistics company in North America. That was another internship. And I was literally in the operations, like moving freight in and out of China. So those, I think, were both like little, shorter internships, but I got a lot of information that kind of gave me my basis to do what I do now.
That's great. Yeah. So how often, how many hours a week do you work? I mean, you must be doing this all yourself, looking for somebody to help you.
All day, every day, huh?
I was just talking to my mom about this. Like when I was doing the TV show and starting the business, because I was basically all the money I was making on the TV show, I was putting into my business. I would I don't know how I survived that. Like, I don't know how I worked that much. Like I look back now and I'm like, oh my gosh, like that was crazy. But like you do what you got to do to make it happen. But now I would say depends on the week, but like 40 to 50. But then there's some weeks where I work for myself. So if I want to take a Friday off or just answer emails on my phone, I can do that. And I have the luxury of working from pretty much wherever I want. So I got to take my mom over to Europe for a month and to see the Northern Lights for her 60th birthday. And then I also visited a lot of accounts and met with all my clients overseas. So it was kind of a bonus.
Business write-off, right?
How big is your operation now? How many employees do you have?
Oh, it's still just me.
It's still just you, but you're hiring.
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
COVID, definitely. I was supposed to hire prior to COVID, and then COVID took out my second largest customer, which kind of threw a wrench in all the plans that I had. But yeah, in the process right now, my second largest customer is like slowly coming back. So yeah, I've been able to do a lot of it myself. And with, obviously really great partners. Like I work with like certain logistics companies and things like that make my life. I actually do a lot with FedEx too.
Okay.
And they make my life a lot easier so you can kind of run the business yourself. But, yeah, we've been up. We're going to be up another 25% this year, even with COVID. So
congratulations.
Congrats.
We're over the $1 million mark, in sales, which I was happy about too.
Very cool. Now the money is coming from overseas what about the currency transactions?
So I have everyone pay me in US dollars.
Okay.
And that, so the risk isn't mine. But on the flip side, now I'm going to start importing European beers into the United States. So I'm flipping the entire model, and selling these beers exclusively to certain buyers. And then I'm going to have to deal with some of the currency fluctuation and things like that, which I'm going to need to talk to my bank about more.
Yeah. What about insurance? Insuring the FedEx takes over the insurance. I mean, do you have to pay extra to make sure your beer's there cold and delivered right?
It's such a good insurance and a lawyer are like two things that help me sleep a lot at night. I actually met my lawyer when I was 19. So she knew me when I was like super young, at an internship with the Michigan Department of Agriculture. And I guess she just like saw something in me and she stuck with me ever since. And she's an international lawyer. So she's really expensive, but she's worth it. She handles like not US law, but everyone's law basically. And she writes all my, terms and conditions and things like that to protect my business, which definitely helps me sleep at night. And then, as far as insurance goes, there's like a lot of different levels. So there's international, like general liability, I think is what it's called. That's really expensive. Like the minimum on it is like $2,500 a year, like at the lowest, and it goes up from there. So that's kind of frustrating, but it's good to have. And there's like a kidnap policy and stuff like that. So if I like all my international travel, or like they'll helicopter me out of places and stuff like that. So, and then on the actual freight shipments, we do a couple, different insurances. FedEx is really good about like any claims, like if something gets poked with a forklift and a can breaks, getting money for that. They're awesome about that. And then, the larger containers, like if that container like hits a storm and falls off the boat into the bottom of the ocean, we might have to go scuba diving, but also the insurance covers it. And we've had weird things like the refrigerator in the one container malfunction and froze some of our beer. It totally tweaked out, and the insurance stepped in there and as well and covered some of our costs, which was
you don't even think of either.
Yeah.
Like,
Is that low alcohol content then if it froze the beer?
It depends on the beer. Like some froze and some didn't, depending on alcohol volume. Like it was a weird situation, but we've only had that happen once.
So you're 5 years into building your business. You're clearly growing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
What's your vision for this company? Where do you see yourself bringing this?
Definitely. I still, I definitely need to hire people in operations. I think people that are better at Excel and logistics than I am. I'm better at probably more like the sales and, securing suppliers and things like that, and the beer side. So definitely hiring a couple more people, and it's really open to everyone in the United States. They can work from home. They don't need to be, with me. And then, so exporting, importing, and then handling more and more of the logistics throughout the supply chain, and bringing that in-house. So we'll see how that goes. I'm excited. I definitely, there's still so much room to grow. Like I still get people reaching out to me that I don't even have time to necessarily put all my effort towards building the sale and things like that. So there's a lot of room to grow.
You have competition. Sorry, Gina.
Right.
Does anybody else do this, or is it you?
Yeah, there's a couple people. And like technically breweries can export. So like technically breweries are also my competition if they're managing their own international sales, but I don't really consider that my competition. But yeah, the competitors who do it, they definitely do it differently than I do, which I think, kind of gives me the competitive edge and whatnot as far as the beers that I'm moving and things like that. But not a huge amount of competition, which is nice.
Yeah. So when you finally get the employees, are everybody to work from home? Are you going to have an office? Are you going to,
Yeah, I'm work from home. I think everyone can kind of work from wherever they want. I think the whole world's shifting that way, obviously.
Tell me a little bit more about the actual, so you said that there's a process for bringing it over there. There's a process for bringing the beer back. What you were talking earlier off when we were doing our introduction before about this Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
That sounds really exciting to me.
So basically flipping the model. My partner that I export beer to in Europe is going to source the beer in Europe and then export to me now. So I'll be the importer. So we'll be going both ways. And one of the things I want to do is for like St. Patrick's Day is import a bunch of Irish craft beer. And these are all going to be, really highly rated, sought after beer. So I'm not just going to bring in any Irish beer. It's going to be, top tier. And then a beer style is a Russian Imperial Stout. So it's one of those big, thick, heavy beers, usually like 11% alcohol. And I'm going to bring a Russian Imperial Stout directly from Russia. So it's a very authentic, I guess. And I think people will get a kick out of that as well.
Hear that, Kelly Tune? I have an in now to the Russian Imperial Stout.
So is anybody in your life growing up a mentor that, you thought, wow, what am I going to do when I grow up? And, go to college and then, you just bought into this, you not bought into it, you created it. But was there anything in your childhood that somebody that helped you to instill the entrepreneurial spirit that you do have today?
Yeah, I think just you have to be definitely a special person to run your own business. Definitely am not one to like take orders or like be told what to do, or I like managing my own time and what I do. I wasn't a troublemaker, but I definitely am very independent. So I think you need to kind of be that way for business. You can't rely on anyone else but yourself. And you just got to be kind of crazy. Like no one, it's like, for me, it doesn't feel scary. Like for me, it seems scarier to be like in a 9-to-5 job with a boss. Like that sounds terrifying to me.
Right.
But a lot of people think what I do is terrifying. So I guess my brain's just wired a little differently. And I think I got that from my dad. He was definitely a big mentor of mine, and my mom as well. They were both in business. And then I have an aunt that owns a business growing up as well. So I would say those are the three that are like very close to me, that have helped shape the business. And then, tons of people in the industry, I guess kind of saw my passion and latched onto it. They wanted to be a part of it, and they're always a phone call away, which is pretty wonderful. I feel really lucky.
Right. So where are you, just Michigan exporting, or do you have other states you export from?
So we source the craft beer from all across the United States. I work with like 150 different craft breweries at this point from I've even moved beer from Alaska, which not Hawaii yet, but Alaska. We've got beer from. So yeah, a good chunk of Michigan. I'm trying to think. In Michigan, we've done like Griffin Claw, Speciation, Witch's Hat, Baffin, Ascension, New Holland, Dragon's Milk. That's a Russian Imperial Stout.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are some of the Michigan brands that I've worked with.
That's great.
How does a brewery get a hold of you if they want to bring their beer to the European market?
Yeah, so they can email me. Definitely the easiest would, just Shannon at brewexport.com. Shoot me an email. We can chat.
So you're further on down the road, decades out.
Mm-hmm.
When you finally say, okay, I'm going to step back a little bit and I'm going to try and enjoy, not that you're not enjoying it right now, but what is success to you? When you look back, what will you say? What will make you go, wow, I really had a successful life, a successful career, successful business?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a really good question. I don't have the answer to that, but I guess I would say I have a lot of other businesses that I want to start. Like I have literally like a list, a note card that I always just write all my other business ideas on.
Uh-huh.
So I'd like to have the time to start those businesses as well. And, whether it is sell those or, just run them or whatnot. So I guess maybe exiting a couple. In Brew Expert, I don't know if I'll ever end up exiting it. We'll see what happens. But yeah, I guess exiting a couple businesses. All I wanted was to live on a lake, and I did that. My little condo on the lake. So I feel like I feel like that's my only goal. I did it.
You're successful. Well, go ahead, give us a little sure of what you're looking at here.
Oh, beautiful. Yeah.
You're on, I won't disclose your location.
I'm on a lake in Michigan.
You're on a lake in Michigan.
Yeah, the view is what I bought it for. The inside is very dated, and we're in the process of renovating. So that's what I spend all my time when I'm not working doing. I'm either like out on the boat or like ripping out walls or doing tile or like helping my dad with electrical.
You have more hours in the day than I do. I mean, when do you find
No, I need more because I don't exercise. I feel like the dog needs more walks. Like there's not enough hours either. I'm with you.
Yeah, that's for sure. Well, Shannon, your website is www.brewexport.com.
Correct. Yep.
And anything else you want to share with us that we haven't shared? We enjoyed your conversation and listening to your success principles. Is there, determination, grit, get out there and learn?
Experience.
Yeah, hands-on. Any other good success principles to share?
One thing that I've always noticed is a lot of people, they talk about their ideas or their plans a lot and don't take action. So I would say like talk about it less and do more. I think there's something in the brain when you say something 3 times, your brain thinks that you did it and gives you that satisfaction. So like if you're thinking about starting a business or looking into it, just do it. Like and you can make it up as you go along. It's not as hard as people make it seem. I mean, it's definitely hard, but you can do it.
I agree. Well, we so enjoyed talking with you today, Shannon, and hope that your import business is as successful as your export business. And Kat will be wanting some beer along the way.
I will be reaching out to you 100%.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, Shannon.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much for listening to our show. We know your time is valuable, and we appreciate that you have taken the time to stop by for a bit.
For more information about the topics we discussed today, there are links in the show notes for your reference. If you'd like to learn more about the Success Principles podcast and about Kat and myself, go to www.successprinciplespodcast.com. Gina Wells is an investment advisor representative of Retirement Wealth Advisors Incorporated, an SEC registered advisor. Success Principles Podcast and RWA are not affiliated. Exposure to ideas and financial vehicles discussed should not be considered investment advice or recommendation to buy or sell any financial vehicle. This information should not be considered tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with professionals specialized in fields of tax, legal, accounting, or investments regarding the applicability of the information for their situation. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. Investments will fluctuate and when redeemed may be worth more or less than originally invested.